Genshin Impact is doing the unthinkable. They are providing meaningful gameplay, meta-changing buffs to old irrelevant characters, starting with a pretty large selection of Mondstadt characters joining the Hexenzirkel faction. So, in this video, we're going to go through each of the characters that received a buff and go through exactly what they'll do. Welcome to Jello Impact, where we build and test every single character to help you decide who you want to wish for and build. The version Luna 2 banners featuring Nefer and Farina are finally here. If you're planning on spending for these or any future banners, let me recommend Loot Bar. I have been personally using Loot Bar for over a year, and I've spent thousands of dollars on my personal account. They are safe, using currency exchange to get you discounts on the crystals you were going to buy anyways. They have tens of thousands of 5-star reviews. They're very easy to use. Just choose the pack you want, enter your UID and region, and your top up is delivered in minutes. New users also get a 10% coupon, as well as two 3% coupons for clicking my link. New users clicking my link also get access to a $2 Welkin. And if you play other games like Star Rail or Zenless Zone Zero, you can use Loot Bar for them too. It's partnerships like these that allow me to continue bringing the content I do to the channel, as well as supporting my family. So thanks to Loot Bar for sponsoring the video. And suddenly me wishing for every single character is gonna help me feel very vindicated, as completely meta irrelevant characters like Albedo or Venti are going to be pretty good now. Maybe not absolutely top tier, but definitely pretty good. So let's start with Venti. Now, keep in mind, with all of this, this is still early. Nothing is final. Everything is very subject to change. Things could get better or worse for any of these characters. And this is all coming alongside the new character Durin, who is also part of the Hexenzirkel faction. And there are a lot of teams to go through and to calculate for. So the meta is not anywhere near solved right now, but I at least want to go through what the changes are and relatively generally how good things are going to be, at least hopefully in the ballpark. And then we can work from here as things get buffed and nerfed as the betas go on. So starting with Venti. Venti's getting a new signature weapon. Crazy, right? That's Venti's third signature weapon. The first one being the Skyward Harp, then later receiving Elegy for the End, and now he gets a new signature bow as well. I don't remember what it's called right now. We'll get there eventually. This bow has a high base attack, a crit damage main stat. It gives damage bonus, and when there's two Hexenzirkel characters, it's even more damage bonus. It's a main DPS focused weapon, it seems, unless I'm misunderstanding it, and it can give damage bonus to the rest of the kit, but I think it's just to him. And then he gets some powerful buffs on top of getting a new sig bow. No. They didn't just give him a new sig bow and call it a day. They gave him buffs. So he has two kinds of buffs, buffs to his base kit, and then Hexenzirkel resonance buffs. So while Venti's burst is going, he's going to deal big animo normals. Think yoimiya, except it actually does damage. Not only that, these big animo normals have a brand new animation. Yes, they've not only revamping Venti, but they're giving a brand new animation. This is crazy. This is unprecedented. I can't believe that they're doing this. He's now a very competent DPS. It does assume his burst is hitting the enemies, which affects his DPS. We'll get more calcs for Venti in a bit. I don't think he's going to be, competing for a top 5 spot in the DPS, but he's looking very competent. He's definitely going to be a usable character for Abyss, Stygian Onslaught as a DPS, which is wild. Doing normal attack, and it could be meta. Like, we could find new things, and there could be buffs, and maybe it is meta, maybe it's not. What I at least know for sure is that it's not insignificant. It doesn't make him a bad DPS or a cope DPS. It will at least make him a solid DPS at minimum. Doing normal attacks makes the burst last longer, and then a Hexenzirkel resonance. So when used with a Hexenzirkel character, aka one of the other characters from this list or Durin, when someone swirls, he gives a damage bonus of 50%, and then Venti's burst gains 135% of his original damage. So that would also make him a competent support. Think better than Kazuha, and does more damage than Kazuha. Is Venti better than Kazuha now? This is crazy. He's also getting buffed constellations. I'm not going to cover those in this video just because there's so many characters to cover, and it was honestly a ton of work getting all of this information here and dumbing it down so that we could actually talk about it and understand it in like a normal way, because this is a novel, and it's encoded in hieroglyphics, I swear. So if you appreciate me getting it into a format that's readable and understandable for you guys, then subscribe down below. I really appreciate it. Next is Albedo. He's got the most confusing description, but it's actually really simple. So he has regular buffs. Is his skill does more damage, 25% more damage when the enemy is under 50% health. I don't love abilities like this because sometimes dealing that first bit of damage is the most important, but it's whatever. Hey, you know, it's more damage. You can think of it as overall a 12.5% more damage buff, which isn't huge, to be honest, but that's not the main buff. The main buff is with the Hexenzirkel resonance. So again, when used with someone else on this list, or Durin, or future characters, mind you, Hexen is probably going to be Alice, Nicole, maybe Varka. But what he gets is he creates a new flower thing that does even more damage. And this comes with the new animation as well. Gives damage bonus for Hexenzirkel characters based on his defense. This is technically up to 66%, but you won't likely hit 66%, as that's a pretty bonkers amount of damage bonus. And then with his C1, which is free with the selector, that's why I included it here, he gets more defense, and that allows you to get closer to the 66%. So his C1, really, really good. He does more damage and then more damage again. So he's doing a lot more damage and giving a very relevant buff. So go Albedo. He's now like way better than Shiori, which is nuts. Plus his burst still gives EM. So he's actually like really good on some vape teams and stuff like that. So wow, Albedo is great. Now, is Albedo worth wishing for? Is Venti worth wishing for? I don't know. But if you love these characters, they're actually going to not feel like a waste for sure, if not be meta. But even if they're not meta, they're not going to feel terrible. And if you have them on your account, you haven't been using them, you're probably going to be using them coming up here. So really, really cool. Go Albedo. Next is Mona. Now, Mona, I'm going to tell you right now, this is so far the most meta character that I can tell so far. I've seen early calcs for Mona Mualani doing 118k DPS, which would make Mualani the third best DPS in the game, possibly even a competitor with Skirk if you get her to higher investment. Granted, that is only using Prototype Amber Mona as the healing, and it's with Sucrose Mawika as the other characters. I'm guessing using Durin Shalonin is probably also an option if you for not that much loss, if you want more sustain, but we'll get there, you know, in the future. But regardless, Mona is going to be a big Mualani buff. Why is that? Well, because she doesn't get a base kit buff from what I could tell. She gets buffs through her Hexenzirkel resonance and to her constellations. So Hex resonance, when she normal attacks 3 times, she gets a 30% vaporized damage boost, which is a lot. And then her Omen duration is extended by 8 seconds, which is a lot. And then her C1 gives an extra buff for off-field units, isn't too relevant. And then her C2 gives an 80 EM boost, which is, again, very big, honestly. 80 EM is really big. So Mona is kind of cracked. I could see her, yes, being best in slot for Mualani, but I could also see her being good for Arlecchino, for potentially Mawika, if you want to play Vape Mawika. I don't know if that's actually going to be good, but I could see it. I liked Arlecchino Mona as like a fun team back in the day, so I could see this like legitimately being quite good nowadays. And you know, go Mona. If you haven't chosen your 5-star selector yet and you want to play vape teams, you have Mualani, or you want to play potentially other vape teams, Mona could be a great choice. Next is Klee. Klee gains, basically all of her buffs revolve around something called explosive sparks. She can get explosive sparks in different ways. Through her base kit, she gains explosive sparks from normal attacking, and there's a RNG component, so a 50% chance for each normal attack to gain an explosive spark. You can gain up to 3, and then her charge attack consumes them. They take no stamina, and they increase your charge attack damage by 50%. Nice. Then her Hexenzirkel resonance, after an N3, so you're going to be spamming normals anyways until you have 3 stacks and then charge attacking or something like that. She gains an extra explosive spark. Her skill, burst, and normal attack give extra damage to all the explosive sparks. So everything's all about these explosive sparks. I haven't seen calcs on this yet, but right now, Klee is like, okay, I would imagine this makes her quite good, quite reasonably good. And probably makes her nicer to play as well, since a lot of this stuff, you know, charge attack not consuming stamina, extra explosive sparks just from doing other stuff. I think that this is really going to be a really nice buff for Klee. She also has buffs for constellations. I forgot to do her C1. We'll talk about it in a different video, I think. Next is going to be Fischl. Her buffs are very simple, but they're looking to be quite strong. She gets more skill damage, and then she gives attack if she triggers an overload, or if someone triggers an overloaded, or EM if someone triggers electrocharge or lunar charge, and she gives this to herself and to the on-fielder. So this actually makes Fischl very competitive as an electro character. If you were starting to think, oh, Fischl's starting to fall off now, well, Fischl is going to be back and she's going to be good. Again, we're going to have to wait for more calcs and to see more things to talk about how good this is going to be, but I'm quite excited to see how much better Fischl ends up getting. And then the final one, oh no, not the final one, second to final one, I think. Yeah, second to final one is going to be Razor. Razor gets more damage from his burst, and then the Hex Resonance, he gains sigils. And with these sigils, he does more damage. And I kid you not, he is now a better DPS than the Raiden Shogun. Close to 100k DPS is what we're looking at for now. Absolutely insane. I can't believe it. This is shocking, surprising, distressing. I'm going into a deep depression thinking about this. Raiden, just by the way, also gets a buff from using Fischl and Durin on the same team, and also taking advantage of the Hexenzirkel resonance and all of that. And she also, you know, she's like a 90k DPS team, but Razor is even higher. So we're not talking about Razor being better than Cope Raiden. It's better than buffed Raiden, who's better than she's ever been. So yeah, Razor's looking insane. And then the final one is Sucrose. She is the worst of all, by far, the worst buffs of all, which is fair because she's by far the strongest character. She basically gives a little bit more damage percent, like 7 more percent, like maybe 10 max. So not really anything doing for Sucrose, which honestly is fine. Just the fact that she's included as a Hexenzirkel character is already very valuable, because that makes her being a partner to Mona on the Mulaney team, for example, or maybe on a Klee team. Just her being a Hexenzirkel character is value in and of itself, even if the buff isn't that big. So yeah, wow, this is crazy. I can't believe Genshin is doing this. Make sure to subscribe for more. We're going to probably go in depth with a guide for each of these characters, to be honest. Once we get more information, once we see their animations, once, you know, everything's a little bit more settled, we have more calculations, I'll do a guide on all of this. If you want to see some early calculations, you can go to Flip on YouTube. Well, you can go to Flip's Twitter. He's done a bunch of calculations for the new characters. I will be rounding these up. Yeah, this is the Razor one versus Raiden, for example. I'll be rounding these up and talking about these in the future as we go more into depth with all of this. So let me know exactly what you want to see. Next is going to be Durin Kit, then Yehoda, and then we'll probably deep dive into a bunch of these characters. So wow. Yeah, let me know your thoughts. Take care. Bye for now.